They say betrayal cuts deeper than a knife. But when the person holding the blade is someone you trust, the wound never truly heals. My life seemed perfect from the outside. A beautiful home, a loving husband, and a precious daughter. But perfection is often a carefully crafted illusion. I realized this the day I discovered the truth about Ryan. It started with subtle changes, late-night meetings, whispered phone calls, and the lingering scent of unfamiliar perfume on his clothes. At first, I convinced myself it was stress from work. But deep down, an unsettling feeling grew, wrapping around my heart like a cold fist. One evening, I sat alone in the living room, waiting for Ryan to return from another business meeting. The clock struck midnight, yet the house remained silent. My chest tightened as I scrolled through my phone, wondering whether to call him or let it go. Just then, the front door creaked open. Ryan stepped in, reeking of alcohol and cigarette smoke, things he always claimed to despise. His tie was loosened, his shirt untucked, and his eyes, they were distant. Cold. "You're late," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He barely glanced at me. "Work ran late." I stood up, crossing my arms. "You expect me to believe that?" Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Are you accusing me of something?" His defensiveness was confirmation enough. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but fear paralyzed me. What if I was wrong? What if this confrontation shattered everything I had left? So I bit my tongue and let him walk away. A week later, the pieces started falling into place. I overheard Ryan on the phone late at night. He was in his office, speaking in a hushed tone. My heart raced as I pressed my ear to the door. "She doesn't suspect a thing." Ryan's voice was sharp. "Sarah, it's almost done. Just a little longer." "Sarah!" My breath caught. My mind scrambled to make sense of what I had just heard. Sarah was Ryan's secretary, sweet, polite, always smiling. But the way he spoke her name made my skin crawl. The next day I followed him. He left the house in the afternoon, claiming he had a work meeting. My hands trembled as I drove a few cars behind him, my pulse pounding in my ears. He parked outside a luxury hotel. I watched from a distance as Sarah met him at the entrance, dressed in a tight red dress. Ryan kissed her on the cheek, and they disappeared inside together. My stomach turned. I sat there, frozen in disbelief. My hands gripped the steering wheel, so hard that my knuckles turned white. Tears blurred my vision, but rage quickly burned them away. My husband was having an affair. The betrayal itself was devastating, but what I uncovered next nearly destroyed me. That evening, Ryan returned home acting as if nothing had happened. I sat on the couch, clutching a framed picture of our family. Lily's smiling face stared back at me. My little girl, so innocent, so trusting. I couldn't let her be caught in this web of deceit. "Ryan," I called softly. He looked up from his phone. "Do you love me?" My voice trembled despite my efforts to sound calm. He sighed, setting his phone down. "What kind of question is that? Just answer it." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "Of course I do." "Then why are you meeting Sarah at hotels?" His face twisted with irritation. "You're overthinking things again, Emily." I stood up. "I saw you." His expression darkened. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." Ryan's jaw tightened. He stepped toward me, lowering his voice. "You're becoming paranoid." I took a step back. "Why is Sarah calling Lily her daughter?" He froze. His eyes widened for a brief second before narrowing. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." My voice cracked. Ryan's lips curled into a cold smile. "Fine. Since you're so desperate to know the truth, Sarah's going to raise Lily." My breath hitched. "What?" "I never wanted a family with you," he said with chilling calmness. "Sarah and I have been planning this for years. Lily belongs with us." Tears burned down my cheeks. "You can't take her from me. You don't have a choice." His voice was devoid of emotion. "You've always been too weak to protect her." The room spun. My knees buckled as his words cut through me like glass. "Ryan, please." He leaned down, his breath hot against my ear. "Sarah is a better mother than you could ever be." My heart shattered. The man I trusted, the man I built a life with, had been planning to steal my daughter all along. My hands trembled as Ryan turned and walked away without a hint of remorse. The next few days passed in a blur. Ryan's family sided with him, claiming I was unstable. Sarah acted like the doting stepmother, making public appearances with Lily as if she had always been her mother. I fought, I screamed, but no one listened. I was forced to watch from the sidelines as Ryan and Sarah stripped my life away piece by piece. One night, I sat alone in Lily's empty room, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. My heart ached so deeply that I could barely breathe. I closed my eyes, tears slipping down my cheeks as I whispered, "I'm sorry, baby. I failed you." A week later, I received the final blow. Ryan's lawyer served me with papers. Full custody of Lily was being transferred to Ryan and Sarah. The court claimed I was mentally unfit to raise her. My screams echoed through the house as I tore the papers apart. But it was useless. I had lost. The day Ryan took Lily away was the day I died inside. I stood by the window, watching as he led her into the car. Lily turned back, her little hand reaching for me. "Mommy!" I rushed to the door, but Ryan's bodyguards blocked me. Lily's tearful eyes met mine through the car window. My knees hit the floor as the car disappeared down the street. My heart shattered beyond repair. That night, I sat in darkness, my mind numb. A bottle of pills lay on the table. My trembling hand hovered over it. The weight of my failure pressed down on me, suffocating me. My life had been reduced to ashes. As I closed my eyes, preparing to surrender to the emptiness, a cold realization cut through the fog. Ryan and Sarah had stolen everything from me, but I wasn't gone yet. If there was one thing left in me, it was the need for revenge. With a shuddering breath, I stood up. My reflection in the window showed a broken woman, but behind the cracks, there was fire. They thought they had won, but they had no idea what was coming. The day Ryan took Lily away broke me in ways I never imagined possible. But as I sat in the cold silence of my empty house, I realized one thing. I was not going to stay broken. Days passed in a haze of grief and rage. My hands would tremble each time I passed Lily's empty room. Her favorite stuffed animals sat untouched, the soft pink curtains swaying gently in the breeze. I would sit on her bed, clutching her tiny pillow, inhaling the faint scent of baby shampoo that still lingered. My chest would tighten, painfully, as I imagined her crying for me, wondering why her mommy wasn't coming to save her. Nights were the hardest. I would wake up gasping for breath, heart pounding, sweat soaking my clothes. Flashes of Ryan's cold eyes haunted me. His smirk as he walked away with Lily played over and over in my mind. The sound of Lily's cries echoed through my skull, even though the house remained deathly silent. But I knew that grieving wouldn't bring Lily back. Lying on the cold floor with tears streaming down my face wasn't going to change anything. If I wanted Lily back, I had to be stronger. I had to fight, and to fight, I needed to gather the truth, every single twisted detail. The first thing I did was track Ryan's movements. I learned quickly that Ryan and Sarah had settled into a routine. Ryan worked long hours, leaving Sarah alone with Lily most days. Sarah would take Lily to the park, dressed like the perfect stepmother. My heart ached every time I saw them, but I stayed hidden in the shadows, observing every detail. One afternoon, I sat in my car across from the park, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Sarah sat on a bench, scrolling through her phone while Lily played nearby. A woman approached her, dark-haired, wearing sunglasses and an expensive coat. They exchanged a few words, and then Sarah handed over an envelope. The woman took it, nodded, and walked away. My pulse quickened. What was in that envelope? Determined to find answers, I followed the woman. She got into a black car and drove off. I stayed close, weaving through traffic, my heart thundering in my chest. Finally, she pulled into the parking lot of a large office building. I parked a few spaces away and watched as she entered the building. The sign above the entrance read, "Bennett and Company, Family Law." Family Law. My heart stopped. Was Sarah working with lawyers behind Ryan's back? Or was Ryan involved in something deeper, something illegal? My hands shook as I sat there, my mind racing through possibilities. That night, I sat on the floor of my bedroom, documents and photographs spread out around me. I had spent the last few days digging into Ryan's finances, his connections, and Sarah's background. What I found made my blood run cold. Sarah wasn't just Ryan's mistress. She had a criminal record. Identity theft, embezzlement, and fraud. She had changed her name 3 times in the last 5 years. The fact that Ryan had brought her into Lily's life, into my life, made my stomach churn. And Ryan? His financial records showed large sums of money being transferred to offshore accounts. Business deals with shady companies. Investments tied to Sarah's former associates. My hands shook as I pieced together the truth. Ryan wasn't just cheating. He was involved in something dangerous. And Sarah was right in the middle of it. I needed proof. If I was going to get Lily back, I had to expose Ryan and Sarah's secrets. Every single one of them. The next day, I followed Sarah again. She drove to a private club in the city, a place Ryan often frequented. I parked nearby and watched from behind tinted windows. Sarah entered the building, disappearing through the large glass doors. My heart pounded as I climbed out of the car, slipping into the club behind her. The atmosphere inside was suffocating. Low lighting, rich mahogany furniture, and the sharp scent of whiskey filled the air. I spotted Sarah near the back, seated with a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, with graying hair and a scar along his jawline. I positioned myself near the bar, pretending to sip a drink while listening to their conversation. "You said this would be handled," Sarah hissed. "It's complicated," the man replied. Sarah leaned closer. "If Ryan finds out—" "He already knows," the man interrupted. "And he's not happy." Sarah's face paled. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean," the man's voice darkened. "The deal is falling apart. If your husband goes down, you're going down with him." Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for her drink. "What do you expect me to do?" The man's eyes narrowed. "Handle it." I stepped away before they noticed me, my heart hammering against my ribcage. What deal were they talking about? And why was Ryan involved? That night, I sat in my car outside Ryan's house, or rather Sarah's house now. My mind raced through everything I had learned. Ryan was hiding something dangerous. Sarah was tangled in it, and Lily was right in the middle of it all. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I had to confront Ryan. The next day, I went to his office. His secretary hesitated when I asked to see him, but my glare made her step aside. Ryan sat behind his sleek black desk, looking as composed as ever. "Emily," he said with that same detached calmness. "What a surprise." I stepped toward him. "I know everything." Ryan's expression didn't change. "Be specific." "Sarah's criminal record. Your offshore accounts. The shady deals. The man at the club. You're in deep, Ryan, and you've dragged Lily into it." Ryan leaned back in his chair, smiling faintly. "You've been busy. I'm taking Lily back." My voice hardened. Ryan's smile vanished. His eyes darkened. "You think you can stop me?" "I know I can." Ryan's jaw tightened. He stood and walked toward me, his gaze icy. "You're making a mistake." "No, Ryan," I said, standing my ground. "You did." I left his office, heart racing, knowing I had just declared war. I didn't care. Ryan had taken everything from me. Now it was my turn to strike back. Later that night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through the documents on my laptop. I had enough evidence to destroy Ryan's reputation and Sarah's carefully crafted life. The question wasn't whether I could do it. The question was how far I was willing to go. And as I stared at Lily's picture on my phone, her bright smile and innocent eyes filling the screen, I knew my answer. Whatever it took, no matter how dark the path, I would get my daughter back. My hands trembled as I stood outside Ryan's house, my heart hammering in my chest. The weight of everything I had uncovered sat heavily on my shoulders, but I was done being scared. It was time to take back what was mine. I took a deep breath and approached the front door. My footsteps felt loud against the cold pavement, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had rehearsed this moment in my head over and over. No matter what happened, I had to stay focused. I had to think about Lily, her bright eyes, her innocent laugh. I couldn't fail her now. I knocked on the door, and a few moments later, Sarah answered. Her smile faded instantly when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was sharp, defensive. "I need to see Lily," I said, my tone steady. Sarah crossed her arms. "Ryan isn't home." "I didn't ask for Ryan." Her eyes narrowed. "You're not allowed to be here." I stepped closer. "And who's going to stop me?" Sarah's jaw tightened. Her gaze flicked toward the hallway behind her, then back to me. "Lily is fine. You should leave." I pushed the door open wider, stepping inside before she could stop me. Sarah's hand shot out, grabbing my arm. You don't belong here anymore. I pulled free, my eyes flashing with cold determination. And you don't belong in my daughter's life. Sarah's face hardened. Ryan has full custody. If you want to fight that, take it to court. I'm not walking away this time, I replied. Before she could respond, a small voice echoed from the hallway. Mommy! My heart leapt. I turned and saw Lily standing at the top of the stairs, clutching a stuffed bunny. Her hair was tousled, and her big blue eyes widened when she saw me. Lily! I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. She ran down the stairs, her arms outstretched. I dropped to my knees. Catching her, she threw herself into my arms. Her small body trembled as I held her tight, tears slipping down my cheeks. I missed you so much, I whispered into her hair. Mommy, where did you go? She asked softly. I'm here now, baby. I'm not going anywhere. Sarah's voice cut through the moment like ice. She's staying here. I stood, Lily still clinging to me. You're not her mother. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Neither are you. You lost that right when you walked away. I never walked away. My voice sharpened. Ryan took her from me and you helped him. Sarah's mouth curled into a twisted smile. You have no proof. I stepped toward her, holding Lily close. I have enough proof to ruin you and Ryan, and I'm not afraid to use it. Sarah's expression flickered with uncertainty. You're bluffing. Am I? I pulled my phone from my pocket, opening the folder of documents I had gathered. Financial records, wire transfers, and legal contracts tied to Sarah and Ryan's illegal deals. I held the phone toward her. Sarah's eyes widened. Her lips parted as the color drained from her face. You think you can keep this quiet? I said coldly. Once I take this to court, not only will you lose Lily, you'll lose everything. You don't have the nerve, Sarah hissed. I smiled faintly. Try me. Before Sarah could speak, the sound of a car engine rumbled outside. Ryan's black car pulled into the driveway. My heart tightened. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. The front door opened, and Ryan stepped inside. He froze when he saw me holding Lily. His face darkened instantly. What's going on here? His voice was cold. Sarah stepped toward him. She barged in. She's threatening us. Ryan's eyes met mine, his expression hard. Put Lily down. No, I lifted my chin. She's my daughter. Ryan's jaw tightened. She's staying here. I have evidence. My hand tightened around my phone. I know everything, Ryan. The offshore accounts, the illegal deals, Sarah's record. Ryan's eyes darkened. His hand clenched into a fist at his side. You don't know what you're talking about. I know enough to bring you down. My voice sharpened. And if you try to stop me, I'll make sure the authorities know exactly where to look. Ryan's expression shifted, not fear but calculation. His gaze moved to Sarah, whose face had gone pale. You really think you're in control here? Ryan's voice dropped, dangerous and low. I'm not afraid of you anymore, I said, stepping closer. I've been broken before, but not this time. Ryan's eyes narrowed. He glanced at Lily, who clung to me, her small arms wrapped tightly around my neck. Lily, he said softly, come here. Lily shook her head. No. Ryan's jaw tightened. Come here now. Lily buried her face in my shoulder. No. Ryan's expression darkened further, his gaze hardening. Emily, you're making a mistake. No, I said, my eyes burning with cold fire. You made the mistake when you took her from me. Ryan's hand twitched at his side, but I didn't back down. You have two choices, Ryan. You can fight me in court and lose, or you can let me walk out that door with Lily right now. Ryan's eyes narrowed. For a moment, the room was thick with tension. Finally, Ryan's gaze shifted to Sarah, who stood frozen with fear. His lips curled into a cold smile. You've been busy, he said. You have no idea, I replied. Ryan's hand tightened into a fist. His jaw tensed. Then, slowly, he stepped aside. My heart hammered as I walked toward the door, Lily's arms wrapped around my neck. My pulse raced, every muscle in my body ready for Ryan to stop me, but he didn't. I opened the door, stepping into the cool night air. Lily's breath was warm against my neck as I carried her down the driveway. Behind me, Ryan's voice echoed through the darkness. This isn't over. I stopped and turned back toward him. Yes, it is. Then I walked away, Lily's small hand tangled in my hair, my heart steady for the first time in years. I had won this round. But I knew Ryan wouldn't stop, and neither would I. The war had only just begun. My hands tightened around the steering wheel as I drove through the dark, empty streets. Lily slept peacefully in the back seat, her small head resting against the window. The soft glow of the streetlights cast shadows across her delicate face. My heart felt heavy, knowing the storm that was coming, but I wasn't running anymore. This time, I was ready to fight. The sound of my phone vibrating broke the silence. I glanced at the screen. Ryan. Again. His name glowed brightly against the dark background. I let it ring until it stopped, only for it to start buzzing again almost immediately. A cold smile crept across my lips. He was panicking. I pulled into the driveway of the small house I had rented, far from Ryan's estate, far from Sarah's reach. It wasn't much, but it was safe. And right now, safety was all that mattered. I stepped out of the car, gently lifting Lily into my arms. She stirred, her little arms curling around my neck as I carried her inside. The house smelled faintly of lavender, the soft hum of the heater filling the air. I laid Lily down on the couch, brushing a lock of hair away from her face. Her lips parted slightly as she sighed in her sleep. I sat down across from her, my heart twisting painfully. For the first time in years, I had her back, but I knew Ryan wouldn't let it go. He wasn't the type to give up without a fight. A sharp knock on the door made my heart jump. My pulse quickened as I stood. My hand hovered over the doorknob for a second before I opened it. Ryan stood on the other side, his face shadowed beneath the dim porch light. His eyes were cold, calculating, but there was something else beneath the surface. Desperation. "You have some nerve showing up here," I said quietly. He stepped closer, his jaw tightening. "Give her back." I scoffed. "You think I'm just going to hand her over? She's my daughter. She's mine too." My voice sharpened. "And I'm not letting you use her the way you used me." Ryan's eyes flashed with anger. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said firmly. "The mistake was trusting you." He leaned closer, his hand braced against the doorframe. "You can't protect her from me." My gaze hardened. "Watch me." Ryan's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Do you really think you're strong enough to take me down?" My chin lifted. "Try me." For a moment, we stood there in silence, our eyes locked. Then Ryan's hand slid into his pocket, and my muscles tensed. He pulled out a folded piece of paper and held it toward me. "What is this?" I asked, not taking it. "An agreement," he said smoothly. "You walk away now, and I'll let you keep her." My eyes narrowed. "And what's the catch?" "You disappear. For good." His tone was calm, but the steel underneath it was unmistakable. I let out a low laugh. "And if I refuse?" Ryan's eyes darkened. "Then I'll drag you through court. I'll make sure you lose her. Permanently." A spark of rage ignited in my chest. "You don't scare me anymore." "You should be scared," Ryan said coldly. "You don't know what I'm capable of." "I know exactly what you're capable of," I shot back. "And I'm not afraid." Ryan's hand tightened around the paper. "If you don't sign this, you'll regret it." I crossed my arms. "No, Ryan. The only one who's going to regret anything is you." Ryan's mouth curled into a sneer. "You think you've won?" "I know I have," I said steadily. Ryan's eyes flashed with fury. "You don't have the power to stop me." I smiled faintly. "That's where you're wrong." Slowly, I pulled my phone from my pocket. I opened the folder containing every piece of evidence I had gathered, the financial records, the hidden bank accounts, the offshore transactions. I held up the screen so he could see it. Ryan's face paled. "What are you doing?" "You think you control everything," I said softly. "But you don't." "You wouldn't," he hissed. "Wouldn't I?" My thumb hovered over the send button. Ryan's jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed. "If you send that, you'll destroy everything." "That's the idea." My hand tightened around the phone. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Ryan's chest rose and fell rapidly. His gaze flicked toward Lily, who was still sleeping on the couch. His expression twisted into something dark. "You'd ruin her life, too." "No," I said calmly. "I'm saving her." Ryan's hand shot out toward the phone, but I stepped back. My finger hovered over the screen. "One more step, and this goes public." Ryan's hand froze midair. His mouth twisted into a furious snarl. "You're playing a dangerous game." I smiled faintly. "So are you." Ryan's gaze burned into mine for a long moment. Then his hand dropped to his side. "You'll regret this." "I don't think so." Ryan's jaw tightened. Without another word, he turned and walked away. I watched him disappear into the darkness, his figure swallowed by the night. My heart hammered against my ribs as I closed the door. My hands trembled slightly as I leaned back against it. The weight of what I had done settled over me, but beneath it was a quiet strength. I walked over to Lily, kneeling beside her. Her small hand curled around my finger as she slept. My eyes burned with tears as I brushed her hair back from her face. "I've got you now," I whispered. "And no one is ever taking you away from me again." The threat wasn't over. I knew Ryan would try to retaliate. But I wasn't that broken woman anymore. I was stronger now. And this time, I wasn't backing down. I kissed Lily's forehead and stood. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Ryan. I deleted it without reading it. I walked toward the window, looking out into the dark night. My reflection stared back at me, steady and calm. I had faced my demons. I had taken back what was mine. And now, I was ready for whatever came next.